Did you follow up with the I-9s?
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. I'm Bonnie Gon Bailey, and I serve as the Deputy Director over Public Health Research. And we are getting started with our annual funding opportunity announcement for Ed and Ethel Moore Alzheimer's Disease Research Grant Program. This recording is being recorded, sorry for the redundancy, and all lines have been muted. If you have questions, and we hope that you do, that you can put them in the chat, and we will answer the questions at the end. Additionally, every year we accumulate frequently asked questions. If you go to the department website and go to the Ed and Ethel Moore Alzheimer's Disease Research Grant Program and look at the archives for the last few funding opportunity announcements, you will find that there are frequently asked questions. Knowing that the research grants stay about 98% consistent from year to year, if you have questions, those might help as well. But this will be interactive with your questions, and we will, in fact, be answering all of the questions. Okay. The purpose of the program, this was started back in 2014, and certainly it focuses on Alzheimer's disease, but so the prevention of, which would be including early diagnosis, and the secondary prevention of what can be done with modifications in diet, exercise that is related to cardiovascular disease, diabetes. That would also be part of the secondary prevention. And of course, we're always looking toward a cure for Alzheimer's disease. We have received $5 million annually for the last several years, and that has been confirmed again for this fiscal year. Okay, certainly I talked a little bit about this. Always expanding the knowledge of what we are finding out about Alzheimer's disease is critical, and that you can help share through publications, patents, and then continuing your research beyond the research funding that we provide you here. The funding is only available to researchers in the state of Florida, and that is to stimulate the economic impact for Alzheimer's disease in the state of Florida. And what we know is for every dollar that we give out in the state funds, we get that back with the researchers then being able to competitively be awarded federal research grants, which are always more than the state funds. This we know. But so it really does help build and retain the infrastructure in Florida. So it's okay. I want to thank you, all the researchers that have provided research in the past. There's plenty of room at the table. We're always looking for new researchers, new ideas, new projects, and it all builds for the improvement of the people of Florida. And as we know, our growing population is the aging population. And may we all live a nice long life. But with that, I think that we have some unique challenges here in Florida And so this Alzheimer's disease research grant program is so vital for that. The governor has recognized the importance of addressing Alzheimer's disease and related dementia in Florida to the extent that it was established as a state health improvement plan priority area 1. Now, priority area 1, what does that mean? It's Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. The state health improvement plan brings in lots of different folks from community-based organizations, policy leaders, non-traditional partners, insurances as an example. For this one specifically, AARP would be a good example. All looking at what can we do to build the infrastructure for long and healthy lives. So within the state health improvement plan, we strengthen the capacity of what we're able to do and address in the state of Florida. We are working towards new education and training and certifications for people working in the area of Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. That would include memory disorder clinics, assisted living facilities, nursing homes, daycare providers, to assure a certain sensitivity and knowledge for the issues. Additionally, within the state health improvement plan, looking at the support for those living with Alzheimer's disease related dementia and their caregivers. I don't have to tell you about the impact on one's health if you are a caregiver and living or taking care of someone with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. All right, this gives you a high-level snapshot of who we are, what we're doing, and all that you have done in the state of Florida. We can look at over the last couple of years. We'll start with fiscal year 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23. At that point, all right, you can see where we had an uptick in funding. Always consistently fiscal year 1920, 2021. We certainly, there were a lot of different things going on in all of our lives. And, but we have consistently had a good amount of applications, and the number of, which is in blue, and then the number of grants awarded, okay? And certainly, as you can see, we would have a lot of room to increase additional awards with additional money. However, so if you're not funded the first year, look at the comments that are provided to you and come back and submit another application. Or use our comments that you get from the peer reviewers and use those to update your application for federal research. Okay, and now it is my honor to turn it over to Kristen Richard, who is the lead for the Ed and Ethel Moore Alzheimer's Disease Research Grant Program. Go ahead, Kristen.
So basically, we're going to be talking about our application process at this point and the new FOA. I just wanted to kind of remind you with the FOA that it's designed to support grants ranging from pilot to kind of more mature projects. And it's very unique with Ed and Ethel Moore because we do have some fellowship opportunity, which some of our other programs do not. Consortium grants are really encouraged, and special attention should be given to addressing the needs of diverse populations. So this is the annual State of Florida grant application process. The annual grant funding is determined, and BRAC, or in this case, it says BRAC, but this is the Alzheimer's board, actually. They're going to review the FOA and approve any changes for the next fiscal year. So we've already kind of been meeting, started this process. The FOA is posted. And so now we're doing an informational webinar. You'll have the chance to submit your questions and answers in the chat and also to our research inbox, which we will provide that information at the end of the PowerPoint. And you will be able to receive a response. Everyone will receive the same response collectively as a group. They'll be posted online on our webpage. Letters of intent. So there's a very short turnaround. One thing I do want to put out to you is that the timeline for the FOA has been updated. So if you looked at the FOA earlier last week, I'd encourage you to go back to our website, look at it again today, make sure you're reviewing the most up-to-date timeline. The reason why we've changed the timeline is to allow us actually to award the funds sooner and notify potential awardees of their award before the holidays and allow updates to the budget at that time. And so then, of course, we can begin work on the project sooner. So after our administrative review process, grant proposal submission period, so you'll have some time to submit your awards. Again, a little bit shorter than previously, but the goal in mind, allowing more time for the research. Again, more administrative review on our side. We do peer review all the applications, and you will have the opportunity to receive your peer review comments. And then again, the Alzheimer board will review and make recommendations for funding. It is the Surgeon General, however, that finalizes the awards, and unless he chooses to delegate it to someone else. So our grant categories, as we talked briefly about it earlier, there are 4 grant categories: consortium grant, standard grant, pilot grant, and postdoctoral research fellowship grants. You can see the funding level for each award and the length of the grant. You can always opt for a shorter period. There is no more than a 6-month no-cost extension. And so if you do choose to reduce the term of your grant, you want to be sure that that is what you want, and you'll have enough time to complete your research, because there is not very much room for changes after the fact. The other thing I want to point out to you is the maximum number of applications per institution. So certain categories have 1 application max, and certain have 4 priority area. But overall, there is a limit per institution as well. So you're going to need to coordinate this with your SRO's office to ensure that your university submits the projects that they feel, or your organization submits the projects that they feel are most likely to get funded. So again, taking the time to point out that we are encouraging consortium grants. And these are grants where 2 or more institutions are working together, and ideally a more experienced institution is working with an institution that is newer to the field of Alzheimer's research, or still kind of developing their Alzheimer's research program. So this year, there's a need to highlight the importance of reaching out to rural programs, emerging research, as I just stated, and colleges or universities less established in Alzheimer's disease research. Also, special consideration is given to consortium grants with the lead organization with 1 less established research organization. So the idea is we appreciate those that continue to apply, and we'll continue to award funding to our partners that are most deserving, but we do want to leave room to expand the body of knowledge to others.
If I could just add a little bit to that too. So with the consortium grant, are you doing behavioral research where maybe one of your partners, as one of the additional institutions, might be a memory disorder clinic, might be adult daycare, an assisted living facility, or a smaller community-based Alzheimer's disease-related dementia community-based organization.
So other things that we want to talk about that are new this year are allowed direct costs. So your background screening, if you are having contact with human subjects, then a level 2 background screening is required. It should be and can be included under other expenses. And we'll actually just address this a little bit more in the budget section. There has been an increase to the amount of lodging. So from $150 a night to $175 a night. So we always want to try to get the state or government rates when we stay. Another thing that we want to note is that the travel is only allowed for domestic travel. And so that is something that I know some of our conferences are held out of the country. And so it would not be appropriate to use Alzheimer's funding for that travel. Indirect costs up to 15%. And the way the university or the way the state of Florida calculates this is it's 15% of all direct costs, not to exceed 15% of all of the direct costs. So we don't do modified direct here, but you can choose to modify the amount that you are claiming for indirect, not to exceed the 15%. And you just will need to specify that in the budget. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that participant payment logs, they must be kept using de-identified participant payment and information. Other things would be subcontracts. So subcontracting is something that we have not been as stringent about in the past, but we are trying to do better with our compliance and compliance monitoring. And so it is something now that we're requiring to be pre-approved through the department. And it also must be included on the budget. So if you're intending to submit subcontract, if you're intending to subcontract some of your work, you must, after your award, notify your grant manager. We must pre-approve that. And then it must also be included in the budget template. The budget narrative must justify the purpose of the subcontracts and whether it's the only vendor that can perform the services, regardless if they are in and out of state. So again, we want to make sure that we're getting the best value for the state taxpayer dollars.
If I could interject, so we've had this question before. If you apply for a consortium grant, your partners, there's a lead agency, right? And then your partners that equal the consortium, they are not subcontracts, okay? You are the lead organization with a collaboration agreement.
And so just touching again briefly on indirect costs not to exceed the 15%, must or may be included for direct cost categories for services, functions, and activities that are directly necessary for the grant. And so I know there's sometimes additional need for clarification on that. You can always reach out to our research mailbox to figure out if it should be charged as a direct or indirect if you were unsure with that. Definitions. So we did update some of our definitions this year, including what is considered a consortium. And the key with the consortiums, again, like Bonnie said, there's a lead and then there are the partner or the collaborating organizations. And we're going to need a letter of commitment from the collaborating organizations. The contractual agreements. So again, we've kind of changed the definition for that. And it is basically whereby a project is carried out by the grantee and or more other organizations that are separate legal entities. And so this is a good example of the difference between a consortium and a contract that may require you to subcontract out part of your work. And so we're going to be looking very closely at these definitions to determine whether you need to go through the subcontracting process. Other definitions that have changed, we already covered the consortium, or wait, yes, we already covered the, it's in advance. All right, so we've covered indirect costs thoroughly, and we've also covered the subcontracting, and again, a contract between the awardee and a third party that provide all or some of the work on the awardee's behalf. And so if you're using, I don't know, maybe a therapist or something else, again, those may be considered subcontracts. And so you do want to review these definitions closely because your grant manager will be reviewing them as we set up your new awards.
And as another example of subcontracting, if you're using a highly specialized laboratory where the service is only provided or only available in a couple locations throughout the country, that kind of information we need to know because that helps expedite the review and approval process.
So letters of support. Applications for connecting research with the Department of Health and the Department of Health data must include a letter of support. And proposed data elements for each data system that will be requested must be provided to the administrator prior to the letter of support being issued. So that's just for us, making sure that you're able to do kind of what you said you're going to do and be able to access the data that you think that you're going to need. If you're this is the contact for vital statistics. All letters of support must be submitted to the Department of Health office no later than July 21st, 2023. So this is kind of the new stuff. And next I'm going to turn this over to Cheryl Mosley. She's going to discuss with you some of the lessons learned.
Real quick, there's a question.
Okay.
Can you hear? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
The question is from James Aruda at UWF, and the question is, can the collaborating organization, i.e. hospital, be in another state, and will that qualify for the consortium grant proposal if the PI is from an SUS institution?
An SU. Oh, okay. Alrighty. Now I know what SUS means. Thank you, Cheryl. Sorry, that caught me off guard. You would really have to clearly justify why you would want a hospital out of state involved. Now, so UWF is in Pensacola, so why you would not be working with an area hospital in Florida versus out of state, you would really have to justify that. But remember that the intent is to build the infrastructure in the state of Florida. So we would really have to be able to clearly identify why you would partner with a hospital outside of the state of Florida.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible just to add one bit of information to that verbally.
Okay, go ahead.
This particular hospital, we're finishing up a clinical investigation. We wanted to follow people. We have data, and we wanted to follow people. That was a possibility. And it's go ahead.
No, you please finish your thought.
No, I was going to say that this is actually for a UWF State University System patent. So there's a lot of reason for us to want to follow some of the people that we've already tested for a year or so with this particular instrument.
So it's within your catchment area?
I'm sorry?
Is it within the catchment area of your university? Is it just over the border?
It is not. It's being done up in Rhode Island.
That would really be hard to justify.
Okay.
Now, if you were going to follow these individuals via telehealth, and the funds would stay here.
Oh, okay.
That would be an option.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Would that still be the consortium grant?
It could be a consortium, but you'd have to have another Florida-based partner.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Go on. Mhm.
can't go back. Okay, so good morning. My name is Cheryl Mosley, and I'm the grant coordinator here with Public Health Research and Biomedical Research Grant Programs. And just wanted to remind you all of some lessons learned that we want to share. It might kind of help you a little bit as you prepare your applications. Department staff will not provide feedback on which priority area or a focus area would be the best fit for your research. Additionally, will not provide feedback on your proposed research ideas. The sponsored research office must provide a letter of support for an application, and this is to assure that the approved applications that are submitted by a single institution meet the quantity requirements for the number of applications that are eligible from that institution. Organizations cannot submit the same application in different grant categories. Again, organizations cannot submit the same application in different grant categories. You cannot change the title of your research from the letter of intent to the application. They must be exactly the same. Use the required forms such as the budget forms and the biosketch that's provided in the online application. There will be a link to that. You could be disqualified if you don't use the required forms. Address all the questions that are applicable for your research. All those questions that may regard human subjects, vertebrate animals, stem cells, recombinant DNA, they must be addressed in their entirety if it's applicable to your research. The PeerNet application system is the system that's used not only on the application side, but it also is used after award for any correspondence, forms, reports, amendments, deliverables such as your invoice and reporting. That all comes through the PeerNet system. And so for now, you are going to be on the application side for the intake of your application. Research staff can be added to awarded grant folders. It's one of the perks of our grant management system, so that you can, after you're awarded, you could include, for instance, your financial contact, your grant manager, the SRO, any pertinent individuals who might have a reason, even your research staff, that may need to upload documents and information relating to your deliverables, budget requests, anything like that. Then there'll be a process once grants are awarded where we would prompt you to go in and do that step. Post-execution administrative contacts might be added as well. So just keep that in mind. You will receive your peer review comments. Those are anticipated for the Alzheimer disease program around or about January the 5th of 2024. Post-funding cycle analysis indicates that about 30% of the resubmitted research grant proposals are awarded. Research participant incentives. There were previously restrictions on the cap for participant incentives, which have now been removed. Cash checks or gift cards are allowable. When planning your budget, if working with research participants, the grantee is tasked with determining which research staff require that level 2 background screening, and you can use grant budget funding to pay for these costs. An attestation will be required during the first 90 days of the project startup to verify completion of the task. And I might add that staff that require that level 2 are not allowed to start work until that screening has been completed. All right, travel supported with these grant funds must comply with the state of Florida travel guidelines referenced in section 112.061 Florida statutes. When calculating the budget summary and the narrative, be sure to use whole dollars. That is something that has been in the instructions from times past, but we really need to stick with whole dollars. So please, I believe the forms should be all formatted so that it rounds to whole dollars. So that's the way we prefer for you to submit all of your figures. The budget summary must correspond to the calculations in the budget narrative. So make sure whatever's on the summary, again, the form itself is designed in a way that it will carry forward your numbers from your budget narrative to the budget summary. We must make sure that no alterations are made to the form in order to make sure the numbers jive from one summary to the narrative and vice versa. The budget summary provides an overview of the estimated budget for the life of the grant by category and by state fiscal year, which is July 1 to June 30. Do not use calendar months to calculate the budget. Okay, we have anticipated a start date for the Alzheimer's disease program of March 1 of 2024. The first fiscal year grant budget would be calculated at 4 months, and each remaining year would be 12 months, and the final budget year would be allocated 8 months. And so if you had a 24-month budget, you would actually cross 3 fiscal years, for an example. And that's all that I have for you. Are there any other questions that Bonnie and the team can address? Christine, this is, were there any other questions in the chat?
There are no additional questions at this time.
Okay, if there are no additional questions in the chat, is there anyone who'd like to do so by raise of hand?
As a reminder, if you have questions later today or in the next day or so, I believe we're taking questions via our research mailbox through Friday. Or, sorry, through the 3rd.
Yes, and those questions will be answered in a formal way and posted on the website. And you can unmute Jean.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I emailed this question a couple days ago, but I know you probably have a lot going on in your inbox. I have a faculty member interested in submitting a standard grant. I manage the limited process here at Florida Atlantic University, and she would like to apply for a 5.3, which is typically for postdoc, but she wants to apply for a standard grant for a priority area within a 5.3. So I'm looking at all the guidance. A standard grant could be in any priority area as long as it doesn't exceed 3 priority areas, correct?
Correct.
So she could submit a standard grant in a 5.3.
Yes.
Awesome. That was my only question.
All right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Eva.
Will the slides from today's webinar be posted? Or just the
Yes.
webinar? Okay, thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, we're going to put our contact information up on the screen so that way you guys will have access to our research inbox. And so just remember that after this point, if you have any questions, you'll need to email the research inbox And we will compile a list of the questions that are being asked, and we will post those responses on our website. We also want to remind you to please go ahead and tap and download the newest version of the FOA just to make sure that you have the correct timeline. Again, we did update the timeline to allow the grantees that are selected to be awarded sooner. So if there are no other questions, we're going to go ahead and we'll wrap up today.
Thank you. Best of luck to
Thank
all
you.
of you.